Hi, it's Mickey Dolenz here. You're listening to Inspirado Projecto.
Welcome to another episode of Inspirado Projecto. Today is March 26th. The episode you're about to hear was recorded on February 27th while I was interviewing Martin Schmidt, a local historian of Monterey, California. This is while my yacht rock band Yachtley Crew was in town to play at the Golden State Theater that night. Martin Schmidt made a vow when he was a child to restore the Golden State Theater to what it once was back in the day when everybody loved going out to the theater. He respected it that much. He got together a group of folks to help, regrow this thing, one of which was his buddy Gary Parks. And they all, in the mid-1990s, they went up to the Golden State Theater. They said, hey, can we put this thing back together? And I'll let you listen to him talk about it. This is very exciting to reconnect with him because he is also an extraordinary sock monkey creator. Check out his stuff. He's known as the Sock Monkey Guy. He is on Facebook. He's on Instagram. He's a great talker. And may you enjoy the rabbit hole he's going to take you down. I keep telling him, anytime someone comes out to Monterey, they should talk to him. And he could bring him around. He's an extraordinary tour guide. Anyway, without further ado, here is Martin Schmidt on Inspirado Projecto. And by the way, check out Yachtley Crew.
Okay.
Is there a spot that you want to...
Oh, you're talking the mezzanine, I guess.
Yeah.
As long as they're not doing sound checks or anything.
So we're here with Martin Schmidt again, the man, the myth, the legend, one who is responsible for helping renovate this place from the mausoleum it used to look like into this fine, colorful specimen of history. So what's the new progress on the miniature that you've been working on?
Well, I've been installing the lighting. I got busy with other things, so I haven't touched it for the last few months, but you know how things are. But I've got the front of the marquee working, and have to do the sides yet. So all the little chaser lights around the reader board, those work on the front anyway, not the sides. And the lighting coves on either side of the entrance, those work. And the little urns in the alcoves up above, so those all work now. But there's still a lot of work left to do in it because the marquee is the most complicated bit of wiring in the whole model.
I imagine. How many lights just on the marquee alone? I know you've got tons of lights all over.
Oh, let's see. I've got it written down at home. There's, the front reader board has 103 or 104, I think it is, something like that. And the sides have, I think, 70 some odd each.
Oh my gosh.
So that's 140 plus 100, that's 240 something. And then the words Golden State have more light bulbs, so there's probably,
whoa.
Let's see, there's probably 40 or so there. And then I got the light bulbs behind the stained glass panels. These are all LEDs, of course. And then there are finials on top and bottom of the corners that light, so each of those is going to have an LED. Haven't put those in yet. So yeah, a few hundred by the time it's all done.
And then you were telling me that many of those are each on their own dimmer switches and...
Yeah, each section, well, each set of related elements, as it were. So you've got, for example, the two lighting coves behind the top of the first floor. There were lights that washed up on the second and third floors. So that set is on its own dimmer. And then the chaser LEDs will be on another dimmer. The words Golden State are on another dimmer. The stained glass panels are on another dimmer, so that I can balance the lighting so that it looks realistic and in scale with the rest of the model. Because if I have everything at full brightness, it's too bright for the scale. Because the larger an object gets, then the comparatively dimmer the lights look, just because they're having to spread over a wider area. So
And it's incredible.
This way I can balance
So
it.
have you added, because I know you like to use the 3D printer a lot, have you added some new elements there that you've created with the 3D printer?
As a matter of fact, yes. They're not, well, you saw all the elements that were on the model, because I showed you pictures, I think. But the stuff I'm adding with the 3D printer now are things that are not visible. In other words, they're little fixtures to hold the LEDs in place from the inside.
Oh, wow.
So that's still being quite useful.
That's incredible.
But the new elements you don't actually see because they're functional.
So how many more pieces do you think you'll have to do to put together before you feel like, holy cow, this thing is fully finished?
Oh, well, let's see. I got to do the chasers on the sides of the marquee. The reader board boxes behind the letters, they're like LEDs and boxes there. Those are built, but I have to install and connect them. Got to do the stained glass panels. So, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The finials, I'll count them all as one unit. And then I got to do the floodlights on top of the marquee to light up the center. So 9 or 10 more elements still to do.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So what do you have like okay,
A timeline.
within this week
and
I get this? Yeah, like when do you think
Not
that?
really. No, I just put it aside for a while because I had other things I had to do, and the project wasn't really going anywhere for a while. Just because the owner of the theater, he's a wonderful guy. I've met him a few times, and unlike the previous 2 owners that it had, this guy really cares about the place.
Good.
And so it's such a pleasure to work with him. But of course, he's got limited time because he not only manages this venue, but he manages one up in Santa Cruz. And plus he has a family with 2 kids, and so he's got to devote them some time. So yeah, as far as this place goes, things are just moving along really slowly, but they're moving.
So okay, so this is awesome because now after all this time, after these decades of working with these different people who could care less what the heck you were doing, which finally, I mean, it's great that you came across someone who said, okay, yeah, please go ahead and restore you're passionate
owners,
about it. Let's restore all the colors.
The owners that had it when I started, which was United Artists Theaters, they couldn't afford to put labor into the building themselves because they just didn't have the budget. The movie industry these days operates on razor thin margins, as do so many other businesses. And but they were really happy to have us volunteers do it, and all they had to do was pay for the materials. Of course, the materials are far less than the cost of labor if you have to pay for the labor. So we were donating the big part of it, which was the labor. And the materials.
And which was great because there was a bunch of people who were passionate about what they were doing, which was great.
Like me.
It wasn't just some people that you just hire and you go, okay, can you do this
Exactly.
thing, and they're just taking their time and it's a chore. This was people like yourself. Because I tell so many people ever since you were young, you were telling me how you'd look around and go, someday I'm gonna
I
help
think the
restore
first time
this
I
place.
came in here, I was probably 10 years old, and I'm 67 now, so that'll tell you.
This is Blythe Baines, and you're listening to Inspirado Projecto.
How long it's been, but yeah, this is the most magical place I had ever seen. I was born in Monterey, a few blocks from here, and this was just this utterly magical building. And I could see at the time, as I've told your listeners before, it was all spray painted white, but I could see what a beautiful place it had been because it was obviously, decorated with colors, and I found it later gold leaf and so forth. So yeah, ever since I was a kid, and the day I first started thinking about restoring the place was August 6th, 1976.
Whoa, you remember the exact date?
Because that was the day they had the 50th anniversary celebration of the theater.
Oh.
It opened August 6th, 1926.
Oh.
Which means that next year is the 100th anniversary of the theater.
Wow.
August 6th.
I hope they do something.
Oh, they're going to. Yeah, the owner
extraordinary.
is planning. I don't know exactly what he's planning, but he knows about it, and he wants to do a celebration of some
Oh my
kind.
God.
Don't know what form it's going to take.
It'd be kind of cool if it was like a vaudevillian kind of thing.
It would
right?
be, yeah.
It would be great.
It would be cool.
Dial it back to the era it was.
So yeah, that'd be great. Even a silent film if we could manage it, but we'd have to
Yeah.
get the pipe organ working again. That's a massive amount of work. But anyway, I'll settle for a stage show of some kind. That would be fantastic.
So outside of the front of the building, last time we were talking, you were saying that there were some things out there still that you wanted to fix up, and still some things in here.
There are pieces missing that were chiseled off in the 50s. We're not sure why. We think some of them probably became detached over the years, just weather and maybe earthquake or two, something like that. In fact, one piece we know came off in the 1989 earthquake. It became partially detached, and it was hanging by some wires over the sidewalk, so they got a crane and got it down.
So is he going to pay for the supplies for you to be able to get these things?
Oh, he's not only paying for the supplies, he's contracting he is part of a partnership. He's got, I think 2 silent partners. I haven't met them. But he's putting the budget together, and they are actually not only paying for the materials, but they are paying for a professional restoration company to come up from Los Angeles and do the work. And so they're going to repair the existing stuff that's broken, plus make all new pieces, which I have done the 3D models for. Here again, working from old photographs.
Which is interesting. So you based your the miniature, off of what you've seen in photos. They're going to base what's going to go on here based off of your miniature.
Not exactly. It's close. I mean, that was the inspiration for it. Let me take you upstairs here and show you how we got the accurate dimensions of things.
Hey!
How's it going, Helen?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We were just diving into some of the walls. And
Oh, good.
we were replacing some bulbs as they times out.
Yeah.
It always comes with a little bit of Winchester Mystery House of Cable.
Oh, yeah.
Goes
Yeah.
into the wall and never see it again.
Yeah, I see you got some new stuff working. That's great. Yeah, this place has been altered over and over again over the years, so it's hard to kind of undo all the changes and figure out how it was originally.
So what is he planning on getting these restorationists in here to?
It'll be in the next few months. He wants to have it done in time for the 100th anniversary.
Oh, good! Oh my gosh, how cool! How cool is that you finally found someone who's a kindred spirit, who cares about it,
Well, he
who's
found
excited
us.
about seeing it happen.
He found us. I can't take credit for it because the last owners of the theater put it on the market, and he learned about it, and he's out of Santa Cruz. I think he was born there. So, and he loves the place too. I don't know how much contact he had with it before he decided to buy it, but it's possible that he and his family used to come down here when he was young. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it. So I'm a little out of breath because we just climbed up to the projection booth.
Oh yeah.
And you can see the old film projectors up there. They're not the originals.
Oh yeah.
The originals were, of course, silent film projectors, but these have been here for decades. And you got a sound rack. Here's a modern digital projector, which is just barely adequate for the throw.
Wow.
Anyway, the reason I brought you up here is to show you these things. So the benefit of your listeners, because I'm always describing visual stuff,
Oh yeah.
these are checkerboard scales. They're 1 meter long because I'm working in metric in the computer. Each of these squares is 10 centimeters. So, and then you can see they have holes in the ends. It's made out of thin plywood. So what I did was, you can see some of them still have rope attached to them.
Oh yeah.
So I got some C-clamps to clamp on the edge of the wall up there. And I hung one of these scales next to each of the windows that had ornament removed from it. Because when they removed the ornament, they just did a quick and dirty job. They chopped it all off, and that left a big gaping hole where the shape with the ornament. And then they just filled it in with stucco. But they didn't do a particularly good job of smoothing it out, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because now we can see the outline
That's good.
of each of the pieces. And of course they're all slightly different because it was all done by hand. So what I did was I hung one of these scales next to each one, and then we hired a guy with a drone, and he went up and positioned the drone right smack in front of each window so that one of these scales was in the picture.
Wow.
And took pictures of every piece that was missing, or every scar where a piece was missing.
Smart.
And then I took those all into the computer and overlaid them and figured out the differences between the various ones, so I sort of averaged them all.
Oh, that's great.
And then using that, I printed scale outlines. I sent those up to my friend Gary Parks, who's been instrumental in this whole thing. He's up in Hayward. And he's a fabulous commercial artist. and passionate about all of these theaters, not just this one.
Oh, that's
He's a
cool.
walking encyclopedia of motion picture.
What a great collaborator
theater
for
history.
someone
Oh, yeah.
like you who just thrives on this stuff.
I met him because of this project. That's a long story in itself. I'll have to tell you sometime. But anyway, so I sent the scale outlines up to him, and I guess he put them on a copier or something and enlarged them. And then he went back to the old photographs and sketched freehand what each one looked like or should look like. And then he sent those back to me, and let's see, I guess he scanned them or photographed them or something and sent it back to me in digital form. So I was then able to open up, are you familiar with Blender?
Yeah.
It's a 3D modeling
Yeah.
program, okay. And it's an incredible program. I've only learned a tiny fraction of it. But I know enough to be able to create 3D static models.
So you can make 3D worlds?
Yeah. Well, not the whole worlds. I mean, that's...
Like this, the inside of this place?
Yeah, if necessary.
Because I know that there are, on some of these cameras now, some of the new iPhones, I guess it'll use the front and back camera, and you can actually scan a place.
Yeah.
It'll actually scan that
It's
whole
called
place.
photogrammetry, yeah.
Which is brilliant. Then you take that into Blender, and now you got the whole inside of the place, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
My God.
So, yeah, you use that as a template and then model around that, and then you delete the original photographs, and you're left with a model.
Wow.
So I did kind of the same idea, and I created 3D models of each of the missing ornaments, and uploaded those to the cloud so that anybody that we need to have access to it, they can have access to it. And so sent those not only to Gary, but also to Igor, the owner of the theater. Igor Gavrik is his name. I love the name. It sounds
Yeah.
Eastern European. I'm not sure if it's Romanian or what it was, but I'd love to find the
Yeah.
history of his name. Anyways, so those are available to whatever contractors that he gets, and they will be well, as I say, there's a bunch that needs repair. I didn't do anything with those because he's able to work with what's there, and he'll use like materials when he's fixing cracks and missing pieces and so on. But then for the new stuff, it's going to be carved out of a high density architectural foam, which is like this really rigid, lightweight stuff that you can carve. It works like a really nice wood apparently, but without any grain like wood has.
Oh, wow.
So you can do really intricate carving. Well, they're going to do it on a computer controlled router, CNC as they call it.
Interesting.
And so they're going to take these big slabs of foam, and if necessary, they're like 4 inches thick, so they're going to glue several together if necessary to make the thickness required. And they put it on a machine, clamp it down, and then feed the machine the model, the digital model, and the
They're going
router
to do
goes
this
over,
based off of your model.
which is really fun.
Oh my gosh. How
And,
cool is that, man? How
So-
cool is that?
Yeah, so it's like my work is going to, Gary's work.
Yeah,
obviously,
dude.
because he's responsible for half
Oh
of it.
my gosh, I love
So
it.
that's going to be up here. But while we're up here, take a look out the window. If I can get this open. There we go.
Incredible.
Now, you see that big sheet metal structure
Yeah.
there? Okay, well, that is not original. It's a sort of cap that was put over the building when they had hung a big vertical, or I should say mounted a big vertical sign in front of it, like so many theaters have. This theater didn't have a vertical sign originally when it opened. And so they added one a few years later. Since the theater's original name was Golden State Theater, the first sign they put up was enormous. It was like 4 or 5 stories tall. It was a Golden State vertically.
Oh my gosh.
And then in 1935, they changed the name to simply State Theater, which is a much more common name. And they took the sign down, cut the word golden off, welded a new ornament on the top of it, and put it back up. So now it just said State. But it had this sort of scaffolding reaching over the top of the building to support the top of the sign. And it looked kind of ugly. So they figured, well, they'd build this sheet metal cap to cover that up. So that was done about late 30s, 1937, 38, something like
wow.
that. We have a picture from 1936 before that was put on, and then we have pictures from the 50s and 60s showing that in place. So we can narrow it down.
Interesting.
But underneath, you can see the original shape of the roof.
Yeah.
You see that little square tower in the middle? It's hard to see from
Yeah.
this angle. Has little ornaments on ornaments on the corners there.
Yeah.
Well, that held a flagpole. If you look inside, you can still see the stub of the flagpole where they cut it off.
Interesting.
But it went up past where that seagull is sitting, and you could have a flag flying from it if you wanted to.
Whoa.
So that, as you can see, it's all rusted, the sheet metal. It's been up there for decades. And so that's all going to come down. and it'll restore the original roof line.
Incredible.
So Igor, the owner, is working on that right now. He's getting permits from the city. He has to source some historical reference materials, and we sent him what we had. And he's found a couple of other resources somewhere. I think the Monterey County Historical
What a
Society.
joy that is to be able to collaborate with people who actually
care, yes.
care about it,
Yeah.
and they want to listen to you. You know, they're willing to let you just run with your passion, and on top of that, they're building off of your passion. I mean, that's just nuts, man.
So, well,
they're
I had
using
to
your
wait-
3D. You
I
and your
had to
buddy
wait
Gary.
many years to find someone like that.
Oh my gosh.
Because I started this project in 1988. That was when I first started promoting it. It took a couple of years to find critical mass of people who were interested. And so we started actively working on the building in 1990. And then it was purchased from United Artists by the first of two relatively blasé owners. That was in 2004 that he bought it from United Artists. So we've been working on it for 14 years up to that point.
Oh my gosh.
And then he had it for like 10 years, and he sold it to the second owner post United Artists, who had it, I think, another 6 or 7 years, something like that. And I'm not sure exactly when Igor bought it from them. So there was a period of like 15, 16, 17 years where we weren't able to do anything on the building from 2004 up until Igor bought it in the late teens. I think he bought it.
They just didn't want to do
2018, something
anything,
like that.
huh? They just
Oh, they were
didn't
just
care,
doing
huh?
their own thing, you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, they just, let's see, the first of those two owners threw away the original stage lighting panel.
What the
which was
heck?
still intact from the 20s, and these big levers and dials and everything.
Whoa.
And yeah, just ripped it out and threw it away. And he didn't have to. He could have kept it as a museum piece, because behind it there was this huge space where the original dimmers were that had enough extra space that somebody installed shelves back there to hold hardware and stuff, tools. And he could have put modern racks of digital dimmers back there. There's plenty of room for it, and plenty of room to service them, and he wouldn't have had to touch the original panel.
Man.
But no, it was all take it out, throw it away. He threw away the original silent screen that we had. It was still hanging up in the loft in the flag room.
Oh man.
And yeah, threw that away too.
I feel like you could totally rent yourself out as one of those tour guides. You know, like people go to Hawaii and then they rent out someone.
right.
They take you up the mountain. You could rent yourself out as one of those tour guides when people come into town. Those who love old theaters and architecture, man, you know, give them like an hour or two. Tell them all about the building. You know, I mean,
That would
people
be
would
cool.
love that. They would love that.
There's not that much of a market, but yeah, you get someone every couple of
There are
months.
those, you know, who do investigate that type of stuff. You know, that just are into those very specific kind of niches.
Well,
you
you know what I probably should do? I've never really written most of this down. I have a few things, but I should probably write it all down and maybe publish a small book or something.
Absolutely.
There are books published locally, and Gary's written for one of them, about local history. They all have the same sort of thematic look. They're kind of sepia tone color, and they show up.
I've seen
historic
some of
photos.
those.
They have some of them in Walgreens across the street, I think, and various other places around here. Cannery Row, there's places that have them there. And there isn't one on this theater so far. But
You're the guy.
There are some on
You're
other
the guy.
historic buildings, some of the adobes around here, and the Monterey Cathedral and so forth. So yeah, I should probably...
With all the articles that you have, with all the knowledge that you have, I mean, you could show pictures, you know, of you guys doing all the doing the restorations and all that, and finding, you know, those chandeliers you were telling me about, finding those at that place, and
Yeah, up in
you know,
Oakland. We don't have any
adding
pictures from
all
that,
those
but
little
yeah.
pieces in there.
But
Oh
yeah,
my
tell all the
God.
stories.
Yeah.
Because, you know, none of it's written down. Most of it's up here. And when I'm dead, it's going with me if I don't put it out there somewhere. So anyhow, that's what we're planning for the facade there.
Wow.
Restore the original roof line. Hopefully, maybe put a flagpole up there again. That'll be nice.
Ideally, he'll have you out here. I'm getting visions of like, ideally, he'll have you out here when those other restorationist folks comes out.
Probably.
So you
he'll
can
have
kind of
stop
lead them,
by.
kind of like, you know, I'm sure they know what the heck they're doing. However, your passion for this specific spot, I'm sure they would just love to have your
I imagine they'll probably have
expertise.
me on site at one point or another.
Yeah.
You know, even just the initial consultation when he comes. The guy from Los Angeles has been up here a couple of times already. I haven't met him yet, but he scoped out what was necessary and looked over the whole facade. So he's got a pretty good idea of what needs to be done. So, but yeah, I'm available if they have any questions about
Oh
specific
my
detail.
gosh, that's incredible.
And as I say, I've already helped Igor with the information that he needs to to get the permits from the city.
Wow, man.
So he's working on that right now.
It's just so cool that they're open to your knowledge and what you've acquired through the years.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, no worries. But the fact that they're, now there are people that are running with that information instead of just sitting on it and.
Well, it took a long time for them to find the place, but I'm really grateful they're here at last.
Yes. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's so nice to see the view here from the balcony again, because for 28 years, this balcony was walled off and there were 2 little theaters up here, which I think I've told you about before.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and
so they chopped this in half, basically?
in thirds, actually, because see, all 3 projectors were up there. Mm-hmm. So they added these additional ports on the outside. Originally, there were just the little ports in the middle. So they added a port there and a port there, and the port on the right projected the picture on the right-hand upstairs auditorium. The port on the left projected it for the left-hand auditorium, but you had to get the picture from the main projector down onto the main screen.
Yeah.
So they left a sort of tapering tunnel between the 2 auditoriums up here.
Interesting.
So they had walls that kind of fanned out from the
heck?
projection booth. It was really strange. If you look on the ceiling,
Yeah, I'm trying to see where that was divided.
let's see. Uh-oh, it's sound check time. Let's go down front here. We'll see it a bit better. But yes, the scars are still on the
So you're
ceiling.
saying that there were projectors that were basically like from here over? So like
Well, the movie
I
screen-
mean the screen was
Yeah,
like
the screen was here,
upstairs.
exactly.
Okay.
And it was kind of angled.
Oh.
You see how the seats are angled one direction, but the
the
screen was
heck?
angled the other direction because it had to be at a right angle to the projector.
So then even the people downstairs too? They were within the same wall, or did they see
No, they
everything that
still-
was on there?
You had all the seats down there, and you had the main screen and the proscenium.
Okay.
But you had to have that tunnel between the 2 upstairs auditoriums, so the projector could throw the picture on the main screen downstairs.
Whoa.
And everything was painted flat black. Okay.
What an interesting
You
thing.
just look over your head, and do you see a scar that runs from about there directly over my head?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where the screen was.
No way. So
And
these
then-
seats weren't even here. There's the
Correct,
screen
yeah.
there.
Those seats up there were always there. But these are new.
Interesting.
And what they had done was, at the height of the cross aisle, they had built a platform out so that they didn't have the tiers stepping down from the cross aisle like they originally did and like they do again. It was just flat, and they mounted seats on there, just random old seats they got from somewhere. Okay. Can you see up there 2 diverging scars,
Yeah.
one there and one there?
Yeah.
That's where the walls were.
Okay,
So now you get, and those went
interesting.
straight down. So now you get a good picture of what it was like.
Interesting.
So they did that in
So these people had this very narrow view.
And as you can see, the seats up there are at the wrong angle for the screen down here.
I was gonna say.
So you're sitting with your knees facing one direction, your head was turned the other direction. But I'm glad they did it that way.
Wow.
Because if they had done a more thorough job, it would be much more difficult and more expensive to try to restore it.
Oh my gosh.
So we're really grateful that they did
Interesting.
that. Now,
Yeah, because they are facing this way, so they'd have to kind of look
they're
off.
facing the original stage and the original screen.
Oh my gosh.
But now, looking at the scars, you can see the configuration
Yeah.
of what it used to be like. And you see these ventilation grills in the ceiling and that one up there. So you got 2 flying saucer types in the square one.
Yeah.
I guess that's a return or something. And so there's an air conditioning unit above the ceiling on each side. And those are modern because, of course, originally the air conditioning was for the entire auditorium. And what it is, they pumped air into a plenum space underneath the floor. They cut vent holes in the floor, put grids in them, so the air came up there, and then it was exhausted through those 2 things above the chandeliers that look like just ornaments, but they're actually perforated. They're exhausted.
Yoda was almost played by a monkey. According to the book, The Making of Star Wars by J.W. Rinsler, George Lucas originally planned for Yoda to be played by an adorable monkey wearing a mask and carrying a cane. Huh, what do you think of that? Stay tuned to Inspirado Projecto for more fun facts.
So now I got to see this from the front here, what you were talking
Let's go
about. Where
across
you were,
the street, you get a better
oh
view
yeah.
of it. Now, think about old timers in Monterey. Nowadays, the street was one way. But if you're old enough like me, you remember when it was two ways. So you'll notice the old timers habitually look both ways when they cross the street.
Oh, interesting. So this used to be
It used to be a two-way street, yeah, when I was a kid it was. And I remember coming down here with my folks on a Saturday night. We would drive down Alvarado Street, and it wasn't the classy town it pretends to be today. And I would look out I would be sitting in the back seat of the car as we drive down here. I remember driving past all these buildings, and I would look out and I'd see very gaudy looking women with sailors in dress uniforms on their arms, with the tar guard and everything.
Which is so funny because now there's Yachtley Crew and you'll see the same thing. It's incredible.
Yeah, except now it's classy.
Yeah, now it's classy. Oh my God, that is so funny.
And the coffee shop on the corner, we can walk down and look at that. That was a pawn shop when I was a kid.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And you look in the windows and you see all these banjos and accordions hanging from the walls. The ceiling was higher than it is now, but so Monterey was not the most respectable town. Well, it was a fishing town, a fishing village for most of its existence. So, okay, so now you see the eagle on one side of the one corner of the top of the facade there, and you look over there and you see that one's missing.
Yeah,
that's the one that came detached in the '89 quake.
Oh,
and it was not only cemented on, but it was held by solid wires that they had wired the thing in place while the cement set.
Oh.
So when the earthquake happened, of course, it shook everything up here pretty good, and that eagle became detached and it was leaning at an angle over the sidewalk.
Oh, geez.
And when the place was still owned by United Artists at that time. And when the manager saw it, he immediately cordoned off the sidewalk so that nobody would walk underneath it, and then he called some contractors with either a bucket or lift or something like that, and they came and got it down. It came down in pieces, and it was in the manager's front yard for a few years. He lived in Seaside, but when he died, it disappeared. So I had to. I went up on top of this building here. It's not directly in front of the theater, but it was the closest I could get because that building didn't exist at that time.
Oh.
And I photographed the remaining eagle. I didn't have a scale next to it because I didn't think of that. That would have been really helpful.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't think of it at the time.
And you must have done that when you were showing me with the squares, right? Mm-hmm. Is that how you measured that one?
That's how I measured. Well, not the eagle because I didn't think of it at the time. Remember, this is 20 years ago now.
Gotcha.
That I did the eagle, and we didn't have computer modeling at that time either.
Oh yeah.
So, but I sculpted the eagle by hand, and I still have the casting that I made from it.
So they're going to base that one off of what you casted, right? Oh my God! And that's going to be that the styrofoam,
lightweight foam, yeah.
It's
you
won't be able to tell the
HDU,
difference.
high density urethane, I think it's called.
Interesting.
And when it's painted, and they'll probably put a thin layer of stucco over it and paint it, and it's going to just look like the original. You won't be able to tell the difference.
Incredible.
So it's going to be great. And then we're going to figure out what accent colors. We only know one accent color, which is a mint green. And we know a couple of places where it was. We're going to have to go back to black and white photographs and make our best guesses as to what the remaining colors would have been, because we know it wasn't monochrome like it is today.
Well, I know it's so under that window, there's that little, a little ledge, but then that kind of symbol kind of right there.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So are those going to be different colored?
Probably. We haven't worked that out yet. We're going to get them up first and paint everything this sandstone color, which is the original color, by the way. And repair everything else, and then we'll worry about colors later, because that's going to take a lot more research.
So do you think these with the faces carved into them and everything that really ornate, are those colors a different color as well?
Probably there were several colors. Here again, we don't know exactly what they were, but I can give you a hint. We're going to go a couple of different directions and look at a couple of different buildings. Come right here. These aren't going to be the accurate colors that you're looking at, but they're going to give you the idea of the sort of motif that these had. Look above the donut shop there. You see the little window?
Oh yeah.
And the ornaments around it?
Yeah.
Watch yourself crossing the street here. As I say, these are not the accurate colors because it was a different building, different architects.
Oh yeah.
And plus, this is a recent repainting too, so we have no idea what the original colors were. But the owner of the building did this fairly recently, within the last year or so.
Oh, cool.
So you see you've got a dark red and a dark green there. And you've got the window frame painted dark red.
Oh yeah, there's like
And
a
the
brownish, or
arch
is that
over
like
it.
a green? It's
The
like
arch, yeah, it's a dark green. And you see the frieze on the top there?
Oh yeah.
So that was all plain white for years and years, and the little braces underneath the
Oh, that's
the,
cool.
Window, what do they call it? Window
Those
box?
little accents there really add so much to it.
So they really do. And then I'm going to take you down and around the corner. There's another historic building. Now, of course, the last old timer who remembered the colors passed away a few years ago.
Oh.
So that information is gone. So we're going to have to take our best guess. But, we'll work with Gary, who's studied a lot of these old theaters. And he can also study the theaters up in the Bay Area that were done by the same architects as this one and make some educated guesses.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fun process. Now you see on the hotel, they only have a two-tone scheme.
Oh yeah.
It's not full color, but you can see where they have darker and lighter colors.
Yeah.
And then they recently painted the Jamba Juice building in two tones. They just did a quick and dirty job of it because you can see those those grape festoons or whatever they are over the windows. Those should be painted contrasting colors.
Oh yeah.
Accent colors. And probably the lintels over each window would be like a granite color, a little speckled granite or something like that. Let's go. So that was a relatively simple job. But the building on the left here, which I'm going to show you where it says Murata Properties. What do they do that for?
Yeah, what the hell? Put a jacket on the guy.
Sure what people were thinking. This is the statue of Mike Murata. He was a good friend to us when we started the restoration project.
Was he the local accordionist?
Yeah, he was.
I love
He
that.
was a local businessman. His office was in that building right there, which is the blue and white building. He was upstairs. And
That is great.
he was an old timer here and knew a lot of history of the place.
Oh my gosh.
There's a plaque over here sometime later on. You can read it. He died in 2019, so 6 years ago. And he actually performed on the stage at the Golden State
Wow.
very early in his life, at age 5. So
Oh my gosh.
Here they made the mistake of calling it the State Theater. It wasn't renamed State Theater until many years after the event they're talking about. But I don't think they had room to put Golden State because they didn't have that much room on the plaque.
Now, was he someone that you were friends with, that you
Oh, yeah.
would kind of geek out about the history and stuff with?
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
And he was, when we were forming the original nonprofit to hopefully buy and restore the place, well, that fell apart after a few years, but the very first meeting that we had was upstairs in his office, and he was there.
Oh, that's great.
And so, yeah, he was a wonderful guy. Just great smile, full of life. He played the accordion for weddings and all sorts of events.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And he was just such a fun person. And
How cool is that he's immortalized right here?
right in front of the coffee shop. This is the one I told you was the pawn shop.
Oh, okay.
So you can see the ceiling was dropped. It was originally like half a story taller.
Oh.
And so then I forget exactly what the front looked like, but of course there were display windows here, and then the entrance was in the center. And you go in, and there's all this stuff you'd usually find in a pawn shop.
Oh.
But now it's gentrified to coffee shop.
Oh, yeah.
So you go up here, and this whole building was owned by the Muratas, the same guy that's in the statue.
Oh.
And so here's like out of the main entrance here. So you've got the same kind of spiral columns that you have on the front of the theater. It's designed by different
Oh, yeah.
architects. And it was built, I think, before the theater. I'm not sure exactly when it was built. Apparently, it was originally owned by somebody named Goldstein, or it was built by
I know
somebody
that
named
the G is missing.
The G is missing, yeah, but it's called Goldstein block. So you can see the variety of colors,
Oh, yeah.
and they've simulated marble here. So
Oh, that's cool.
this sort of has a flavor, and you see the same kind of urns. They're a different shape, but they're the same basic motif as what the theater has.
Oh.
So it gives you an idea. You've got the marble, faux marble color with veining and so forth. And for the benefit of your listeners, you can't see it. And then you've got a sort of brick red and various accents, and you've got a kind of mint green. And the mint green is a similar color to what we discovered on the facade of the theater.
And so weren't you telling me that It was the brothers that designed.
Yeah, Reed brothers, James and Merritt
Are
Reed.
they the same guys that did these architecture?
I don't think they did this building, but we haven't researched it. It's possible they did.
There are some similarities in the way that it's set up.
There really are. So it's possible they designed it. We haven't done the research.
The Reed brothers, you're saying?
Yes, R-E-I-D.
R-E-I-D.
James and Merritt Reed. They started their partnership as architects in Evansville, Indiana in 1878.
Oh, wow.
James had graduated from MIT, and he came to Evansville. Not sure what brought him to Evansville. Maybe they had relatives there or something. But there was an architectural firm there that already existed. It was called Boyd and Brickley. And Mr. Boyd, I guess, was ready to retire, I'm guessing, and he sold his share in the business to James Reed. So for a number of years it was called Brickley and Reed. And then when James's younger brother Merritt graduated from either MIT or wherever he went, we're not sure where he went to school. It's possible it was MIT, but they haven't tracked that down. Anyhow, he came to Evansville and bought Brickley's share.
Oh.
So Brickley and Reed became Reed Brothers.
Oh, that's great.
And that was 1878. So I don't remember the exact year that James Reed bought Mr. Boyd's share. It would have been several years before that, probably 3 or 4 years before. And then so it was Brickley and Reed for 3 or 4 years, and then Merritt came to town, bought Mr. Brickley's share, and it became Reed Brothers. And that was, as I say, 1878. And they designed a lot of buildings around Evansville, including churches and commercial buildings and residences. The very first building they ever worked on was the Willard Library. It was commissioned by a man named Mr. Willard. I forget his first name at the moment, but I have it written down at home. And this information was all supplied to me by the staff of the Willard Library. It's still there. It's still a library. And it's kind of dedicated, among other things, their main focus is the work of Reed Brothers, because they're the ones who designed the library. And they did so much other work. Now, an Evansville resident named Elisha Babcock in the late 1870s commissioned them. Babcock had seen their work on Evansville, and he really liked it. And he was developing a hotel on the West Coast near San Diego on the island of Coronado.
Oh.
You know the Hotel Del Coronado?
Del Coronado.
Uh-huh.
So hold on, they worked with that?
He brought Reed Brothers out to the coast to design that hotel. It opened in 1880, I think it was.
Interesting.
Somewhere in the 1880s, I think it was.
Because I also heard that Frank L. Baum, the writer,
he stayed there.
He would write Alice in Wonderland there.
Or Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. He would write Wizard of Oz there, huh?
I believe that's correct.
And then I heard that in one of the rooms, this lady was telling me that I met there, he actually designed, there are these like chandeliers that look like crowns, and so he designed those apparently.
Frank Baum designed those?
Yeah.
That's entirely possible. I've only seen the building in pictures. I haven't been there in person yet.
You would flip out. I feel like that's a
So, and of course, as you know from seeing it, it's this beautiful old Victorian looking hotel, the big round ballroom or something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'd love to see it in person someday.
So that's interesting. So those guys helped design that.
So they were the architects.
Oh my gosh.
They were the sole architects for that building, to the best of my knowledge. And so once they had finished the building, of course, by that point they have established networking around the San Diego area, and they started doing work for other clients. And they designed a couple of residences. They designed the music pavilion down there in, what is it called? The Spreckles Music Pavilion, something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And they got to know, you have to...
I'm just going to check my text here just to see if they're going to need me back. Okay. Looks like we got a sound check at 4:30, so I got a little time.
Okay, so we got, What time is it right now?
Oh, it's like 4:10.
So we got basically 15 minutes to give you some time to get back in.
So they
designed the music pavilion down there, which had, and I believe still has, a big pipe organ in it, and it's an outdoor installation in a park, and you could come and just flop on the grass and listen to music.
Incredible.
And of course it can handle other kinds of musicians as well, besides just the pipe organ. Pipe organ was restored a while back. That was quite a job because it's a huge instrument. Anyways, so Reed Brothers designed that building, and Mr. Spreckles, his name was Klaus Spreckles, he was the head of the Spreckles Sugar family. Okay. He lived down there, but he also had a residence in San Francisco. And I guess he wanted to build a new residence in San Francisco, either that or maybe move up to there for a summer place. I don't know for sure exactly what the story was, but he liked Reed Brothers' work so much that he asked them to come up to San Francisco to design his residence for him up there. So that's what brought them to San Francisco. I don't know exactly what year that was. I'm guessing it was somewhere in the aughts or the teens, 1900, 1910s, somewhere in there. So they ended up, and for a while they had 3 offices, and during that time when they didn't have instant communication, you had to communicate by telegraph across the country. So they had an office, the original office in Evansville, which is being manned by a third brother. His name was Watson. We know very little about him. He was only involved for a few years. Then Merritt was manning the office in San Diego, and James had the office in San Francisco. So for a short time they had these 3 offices, but of course that became kind of unworkable. And eventually Watson went on to other things, so they closed the Evansville office. Then Merritt came up and joined James in San Francisco. They closed the San Diego office, and they did the bulk of their work from then on in San Francisco into the teens and 20s.
Oh, wow.
And then Merritt Reed passed away in 1932. I think it was 32. And James was getting elderly at that point. They both were. And he closed the office and retired. A lot of people, can imagine the amount of work that they turned out over the decades. Dozens and dozens and dozens of buildings.
Oh my gosh.
Theaters, because they did a number of theaters in the Bay Area. They did apartment buildings, they did private residences, they did commercial buildings.
Wow.
Just cranking them out one after the other.
Did they do any set designs for movies or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I think they mostly concentrated on real world architecture. But it's possible, because of course Charlie Chaplin was a big presence up in the Bay Area, in the East Bay, so he might have contacted them. That's a guess on my part, I don't know. Anyway, but you would think there was a big company with a whole bunch of draftsmen working for them and so forth, the amount of volume of work they did. It wasn't. It was 2 brothers in a tiny office cranking out building after building after building. They were incredibly prolific. So when Merritt died of old age, and he's buried in Colma, California, apparently. Gary found his grave once by pure accident.
Oh, wow.
And so he knows what it is. He has to show me. I love to go up and photograph it.
That's amazing that by pure accident, that sounds like he was
pure coincidence.
Divinely brought there.
I think so.
Because he was already
photographing
deep in the
sculpture and stained glass windows up there.
That's
and
incredible.
I think he'd finished photographing a stained glass window, and he turned around, and here's a niche that says Merritt Reed on it. He was like, what?
Oh, my gosh.
So we're pretty sure it was the Merritt Reed. We have to go up and check the date of death, but if it was 1932, that would have been him. So James closed the office and retired. He retired to Pasadena, apparently, because he loved Pasadena. Reed Brothers, years before, he designed the Pasadena City Hall, still there to this day.
That is so... Oh, my gosh. That Pasadena City Hall. You can walk around it. Oh, my gosh. I went there with my buddy and his girlfriend. We walked around in there at night. It was open. We were able to walk around. We brought a bunch of Halloween masks and strange costumes and stuff, and I was just shooting some footage of these guys. And it's just open in there.
Wow.
It's open in there.
And that is when the memory was used up in my smartphone. However, I did get a lot of good stuff there with Martin. Anytime I'm out there with Yachtley Crew at the Golden State Theater, I get to hear some more about the miniature version of the theater he's been building, his sock monkey projects, all the great stuff that's going on there. You could tell how much passion he has, how excited he is. I'll leave his things in the description here. Link to his Facebook page, his Instagram page, and you can get a hold of him. I'll also, I think, put the links to the other episodes that I interviewed with him. Next time you're out there in Monterey, look up Martin Schmidt. He'll tell you everything you need to know. By the way, check out yachtleycrew.com to check out our big tour coming up. We're going to be stopping at a lot of places. Also, I just came out with a mini concept album, EP if you will, 4 songs concocted over the course of 20 years about Andy Kaufman faking his death. The name of it is Andy Kaufman is Alive. I'm going to put that link in there too, in case you want to check that out. And it's on Bandcamp, Reverb Nation, Spotify, Pandora, all those different places. So, Anyway, thank you so much, Martin Schmidt. Also, thank you, Mickey Dolans, at the beginning of the channel for the shout out to Inspirado Projecto. And thank you so much, of course, Henry D. Horse, for the fun fact. Stay tuned. We have 2 more episodes coming up about the Andy Kaufman Lives phenomenon with Frank Nora and JC Pepe. Take care. Thanks for listening to Inspirado Projecto.